Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am sharing swatches with you from one of my favorite brands. I'm not sure why I haven't done a YouTube video for anything I've gotten from this brand, but I have so much and I love them all so much, and this is the brand Starrily. I don't have anything in particularly collection wise, so what I have to share with you is the trio that they did with Gianna from Nail Storming. I have two of their magnetic polishes. I have a thermal, I have a couple shimmers, and I have their black cream. So I have 9 polishes to share with you today. In the description box below, I will link the Starrily site as well as their Instagram page, and I will also link my Instagram page where you can see more swatches of everything that I'm showing you today. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So starting off with the Nail Storming collaboration polishes, first up we have Lumiere, and this is a white base. It does have tiny like gray micro flakies as well as a holographic element. So here's our first coat of Lumiere. This goes on really nicely. It has a great formula, easy to use, doesn't run, pull, anything like that. I never have formula issues with Starrily in general. This is pretty opaque here on the first coat for a white, so I am going to go in for a second coat though, just to patch up any of the streakiness that's left behind. You do get a ton of those little micro flakies out, but they are harder to see against such a light base. So here's the second coat, and this does cover completely in 2 coats. You do have to kind of drift your brush lightly though for it to cover, otherwise you will cause streaks again and a third coat might be necessary. This also looks really beautiful with a matte top coat, but it does dry decently glossy on its own. So there's 2 coats. Next up we have Etoile, and this is a light baby blue color. It also has those holographic elements to it. These are larger holographic particles than the last polish, and I also believe it has tiny darker gray glitters and then white micro flakies. So here's our first coat of Etoile. Again, this has another amazing formula. Doesn't want to run, pull. It is a little bit on the thicker side as far as the formula spectrum goes, but it's not so thick that it's difficult to work with. Again, there is a little bit of streaking here on the first coat, so I'm going to go in for a second coat, but as far as opacity goes, it is pretty opaque here. So here's our second coat, and this does cover completely in 2 coats. Again, you do have to kind of float your brush to get it to cover in 2 coats evenly, otherwise you may end up needing a third coat. This is another one that looks absolutely beautiful with a matte top coat. I do have macros of most of these polishes today with matte on my Instagram, so there's 2 coats. Lastly, from the Nail Storming trio, we have Vie En Rose, and this is a rose gold metallic flaky particle. Okay, so it's a rose gold base, and then it has these silver flakies that have separated a little bit down here at the bottom, but it is what's throughout the polish. You shake it up and it's totally back to normal. So here's our first coat of Vie En Rose. Again, another great formula, a little bit on the thicker side, but it's that thickness where it stays right where you put it. It doesn't like flood into your cuticles or run or anything like that. So it's a good formula though, a little bit on the thicker side. You do get a ton of those little micro flakies out without having to do anything special to the bottle. So here's our second coat, and this one does cover completely in 2 coats, and no brush floating is necessary to get it to do so. This one also looks stunning with a matte or a glossy top coat. I do prefer this one glossy though, and I also had no staining here as well. So there's 2 coats. Moving on to a couple shimmers. First up we have Moon Glow, and this is a nice light gray linear hollow with this strong copper shimmer. Here's our first coat of Moon Glow, and this is pretty opaque here on this first coat. I am going to go in for a second coat because I can still see a little bit of my nail line, and a second coat will deepen the color and add more shimmer in general. This is a good formula, easy to use, easy to work with, doesn't want to run or pull or stain. So the holographic element in here is kind of harder to pick up. It is there, especially in the sunlight, but it being such a light color and the artificial lighting that I use, it's not going to show whatsoever. You will see more of the copper shimmer than the holographic, and that is very misleading. So there's 2 coats. Up next we have Barnards Loop, and this is like a taupey color. It's somewhere right there in the middle of brown and gray, and it is a linear hollow, obviously. So here's our first coat of Barnards Loop. Another great formula, this one is a little bit thinner, but it's not difficult to work with at all. If you do take up too thick of a coat though, it might want to run down your nails, so just be a little bit cautious about that, but you can go in with 2 thin coats and it's going to cover completely either way. So here's our second coat, and same goes with this one as far as the holographic element goes. It's going to show a lot more when it's dry fully and in natural sunlight than it does in my artificial lighting, but the copper shimmer in here stands out beautifully. So there's 2 coats. Next up we have Light Up the Night, and this is a thermal. It goes from this dark blue to like a nude shade. It also has like a shifting shimmer that goes from this fuchsia to like a goldy to a green in extreme angles. It does remind me a lot of the unicorn pea shimmer. Obviously I can't pick it up on camera. Hopefully the photos will show it a little bit better, but it does shift. Here's our first coat of Light Up the Night. And this is pretty opaque here on this first coat because it is in the cold state, but the warm state is a much lighter color, so I am going to go in for a second coat to make the lighter state completely opaque as well. Back to the original formula of this video, a little bit on the thicker side, but very easy to work with. So here is 2 coats. I'm not sure why my middle finger didn't transition. I assume my finger was just really cold, but this does cover completely in 2 coats. This also looks absolutely stunning with a matte top coat. This is easy to use, no issues here. Also, none of these stuck to my nail as far as like a glitter goes. None of them were difficult to remove and none of them dried textured. So there's 2 coats. And here is a transitional shot in the cold water first, and then over to the warm, quick easy transition, and then a little of both. So there is both states. Up next we have Vantablack, and this is just their 1 coat black cream polish. Here's our one and only coat of Vantablack. This has a great formula. It doesn't want to run or pull. It's not too thick or too thin, and you can do very thin coats and still get full opacity, which I really appreciate. This does stain, not like an actual stain, but I had like little black remnants on my nail from them being so dry, so just keep that in mind. So there's 1 coat. So now we're going to move on to these magnetic multi-chrome polishes, and first up, these actually don't have names on the bottom of them, but first up is this one that goes from like a strong purple fuchsia to a gold to a green to a blue in extreme lightings. And I just like to play with it like this to kind of show the magnetic effect. My magnet here that I'm using is also from Starrily, and it does have the rectangular end as well as the circular end for different designs and effects. So that is the first one. So here's our first coat of Nova. So I did find out the names of these before I posted this part, but I didn't have it as far as the bottle shots go. These are pretty sheer here on this first coat. It is going to take a few coats to be built up as any multi-chrome would. And as far as using the magnet goes, it's very easy to work with. I did only hold it for a few seconds, and the magnetic effect stayed pretty well with just the minimal amount. As the magnetic effect dries though, it will pull from such a harsh line to a more scattered magnetic effect, which is why I'm using the magnet in between each coat. It'll help the magnetic effect stay longer. This is completely opaque in 2 coats, but as the magnetic effect is as strong as it is, the black will kind of dissipate into the background. So I am going to go in for a 3rd coat just to show you what that looks like here, but for the next one I am just going to go ahead and do 2 coats. And sorry about the weird lighting. I tried to show as much of the color shift as possible. So here is 3 coats. And this does cover completely in 3 coats, and these are absolutely stunning on their own as well without having the magnetic effect. And on my Instagram page, I have swatches of both of these magnetic polishes on their own as multi-chromes, on their own with the magnetic effect, over black as multi-chromes, and over black with the magnetic effect. So there are a lot of photos there to show these polishes off if you're interested. These do dry decently classy on their own, though I would recommend a top coat for longevity. So there is 3 coats. The other one I'm going to show you today goes from like a purple to a blue to a magenta in extreme lightings. This one has much less of a color shift range than the other one did. Beautiful nonetheless, though. This one is really probably my favorite of the two. So here's our first coat of, I believe this is pronounced Andromeda. Again, this has the same formula. It's a little bit on the thinner side, but it is easy to use, and it will pull if you do too thick of a coat, but you don't need thick coats for these to work really nicely. And it might be because I wasn't using a base coat, because it does build on itself really, really nicely. I love the magnetic effect in this one. It looks very Northern Lights-y to me when you can get the full color range that is the multi-chrome. So here's the second coat, and like I said, I'm just going to do 2 coats here because as the magnetic effect wears off a little bit and it goes back to its normal state, that black comes back a little bit stronger, and it does help to cover completely. This is another one that I really like to wear just as itself as a multi-chrome without having to do the magnetic effect, but I do really, really like how it looks. Again, this dries decently glossy, though I do recommend a top coat. And nothing stained or stuck as far as like glitter or difficult removal goes. So there's 2 coats. Picking a favorite is pretty much impossible for me here, but I will go ahead and throw out a few honorable mentions. The first one being Vie En Rose. This is so stunning. I love a good rose gold, and this one is pure perfection in just 2 coats, so I really enjoy this one. Next up is Barnards Loop. I don't have anything like this in my collection of 1700 nail polishes, and this is just stunning. Like, stunning, and it's an all year round polish to me, so I love this one. Next up we have Light Up the Night. This is so freaking beautiful. Like, as a full manicure, even in the transitional state where it's purple-ish, I love this so much. I love the shimmer. I love the flakies. This looks stunning with a matte top coat. I think my new favorite thing is a thermal with a matte top coat because it just looks so much more powerful that way. But to have the flakies in here and those stand out with the matte top coat as well is just beautiful. And lastly, the magnetic polishes in general. These are so cool. These are my first experience with magnetic polishes, and I was blown away. Like, I kind of thought magnetic polishes were harder to use, but they're kind of idiot proof, at least these ones anyway. You put the magnet there for just a second and it immediately strays out. So I don't know, I thought they were more difficult than they are, so that's why I kind of avoided them up until this point, but I love these so much. Of course, I loved all of them. I just couldn't honorably mention all 9 of them without sounding like a tool. But that is it. Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of these polishes. Let me know if you plan on picking any of them up, and let me know what your favorite was. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and I will talk to you again next time.